Hello everyone, it is Stephen Smelanich of This Science Theory. Now something strange you may have noticed about me if you've scrolled through my videos is I may or may not have a major man crush on one Friedrich Nietzsche. After all, he is featured very prominently on my banner. As it happens, I may know a thing or two about Friedrich Nietzsche, as my most favorite philosopher who I need to cram into almost every video that I can. Another YouTube channel you may be familiar with if you are a Latter-day Saint is Thoughtful Faith, run by one Jacob Hansen. Now Jacob Hansen himself has made a couple of videos talking about Friedrich Nietzsche, and I think he misinterprets Nietzsche in several ways, but one big way in particular, I don't think he understands will to power.
This is where I get with sort of atheistic morality. It does boil down to arbitrary wills to power. The will to power of the group to preserve the order that they want as the group, and the will to power of individuals and or subgroups who want to organize society according to their values and their preferences. And so, in my mind, I think Nietzsche had it right. It's who's going to win the power struggle. Christianity has become dominant in the world, but is that because they have a better system per se, or is it because they've been more ruthless in their power in basically convincing people to adopt slave morality, but that we could rise up and reject that slave morality and embrace the hero morality and the Ubermensch sort of idea, like he had said. I mean, I guess I just look at that and I go, it all seems to come down to arbitrary wills to power, battling it out in a world of limited resources.
So yeah, just let me come over here a second.
Oh,
Tell him.
I heard what you were saying. You know nothing of my work. You mean my whole fallacy is wrong. How you ever got to teach a course in anything is totally amazing.
Boy, if life were only like this.
Jacob, here is my question for you, however. Where did Nietzsche say that will to power is the natural response to the death of God? Because I have no idea where that quote is. Rather, I've dealt with the death of God myself. I've made 2 prominent videos on the subject. Instead of will to power, what Nietzsche feared above all else is nihilism as a response to the God is dead. He feared that people would start to lose their sense of purpose and sense of meaning, and that everything would just be trivial. All of truth would just be whatever you wanted it to be, which is, the true origin of woke ideology. Not will to power, but confusion of reality, if you will. A loss of sense of meaning and purpose and all that. To quote Friedrich Nietzsche, the nihilist asks, "What were we doing when we unchained this earth from its sun? Whither is it moving now? Whither are we moving? Away from all suns? Are we not plunging continually, backward, sideways, forward, in all directions? Is there still any up or down? Are we not straying as through an infinite nothing? Do we not feel the breath of empty space? Has it not become colder? Is not night continually closing in on us?" While proponents of woke ideology do use a twisted version of will to power to promote their ideas, their ultimate end goal is fundamentally erasure of all identities, erasure of everything that makes you who you are so that everybody can be equal. It's about recognizing there are power dynamics in the world and we need to get rid of all of it. We need to get rid of the concept of male and female. We need to get rid of the concept of bond and free. We need to get rid of the concept of black and white. In fact, they use the quote by Paul a lot in which he says, "There is neither Jew nor Greek, neither bond nor free. There is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus." However, I prefer the Book of Mormon version of this quote, which reads, "Black and white, bond and free, male and female, all are alike unto God." What the woke people want is to create a world like unto the Fairly Odd Parents episode in which Timmy Turner wishes that everybody was the same, that everybody was equal. And the result is this gray blob world in which you can't tell who is who. I mean, the godparents are looking all over the place for Timmy, but they can't find him because everybody just looks like a gray blob. That's the world that the woke people want. A world of confusion, a world of absolute, total equality and nihilism. But as the Book of Mormon reads, there must needs be an opposition in all things. Individuality is a great and glorious thing that should be celebrated and not torn down. So where does Jacob's misinterpretation of will to power come from? I first look at it, it seems like Jacob just, did the usual thing. Looked at will to power and just ran with it. Didn't even look up any quotes by Nietzsche, just, oh, will to power, it must mean God is dead, so I'm just going to go around dominating everybody, right? I'm going to go oppress people, I'm just going to go be a tyrant. No, that's absolutely not what Nietzsche meant by will to power. That is the twisted version of will to power, as promoted by his sister. Let's take a look at this quote by Friedrich Nietzsche in his book Will to Power, in which he explains will to power. What is life? Life, that is, continually shedding something that wants to die. Life, that is, being cruel and relentless against everything about us that is growing old and weak. It is about the fundamental strive against entropy. It is about living. It is about a fundamental response against nihilism, against the will to death. But then, here's where the words get twisted. Life, that is, therefore, being without reverence for those who are dying, old and mellow. This was the sister's twist in Nietzsche's logic of will to power. As it happens, Nietzsche's sister was a Nazi with her husband, and they were all about, being the dominant species on the planet, about oppressing other people and dominating other people. And so prior to Nietzsche's death, she is the one who published his notes that would eventually become Will to Power and got her grubby little fingers into it. As Nietzsche scholar Robert C. Holub states in Nietzsche's Jewish Problem, Elizabeth's biographical sketches and comments on her brother, along with her editing of his unpublished manuscripts, created an image of Nietzsche in consonance with Volkisch and anti-Semitic beliefs. And other subsequent scholars believe that Nietzsche may have actually decided against publishing his notes that would become Will to Power, as he thought it conflicted too much with his preferred concept of being a free spirit, of being able to go out and create your own morals and values. Walter Kaufmann, in his seminal work, Nietzsche, Philosopher, Psychologist, Antichrist, points out that the will to power is not simply a will to dominate, to the ruthless exercise of power over others. As such, it would be virtually indistinguishable from what is commonly called the will to live. Or as Nietzsche put it, life itself is will to power. Life exists, to my mind, only by virtue of a life which wills to grow in power. All that lives obeys. Here we have a scene from The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, in which Samwise Gamgee, the Hobbit, exercises will to power on potatoes.
Potatoes? Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew?
You see, the will to life, or the will to power, is about power dynamics, yes, but it is the circle of life. Like in Lion King, the lion eats the gazelle, but then the lion dies and becomes worm food, and then the worm food becomes grass, which the gazelle then eats. Jacob Hansen, in another video, talks about how he believes the Ring of Power is a representation of will to power. However, never mind the fact that J.R.R. Tolkien was staunchly against allegories, and as far as he was concerned, was just writing a fun fantasy novel with, of course, some Christian undertones. But nevertheless, I think a better representation of ring to power is not will to power, but rather a over-reliance on external power. Just look at Aragorn. He becomes the most powerful man in Middle-earth because he refuses to use the Ring of Power, because he relies instead on his own internal power, on his own internal fact that he was born to be a king. So according to science, of course, one day everything is just going to die out in entropy. We're going to get old, we're going to get sick, we're going to die, and then the universe is just going to go up in a heat death, you know? But Nietzsche's will to power is about fighting against all of that. It's all about how can we escape the universe before the heat death happens? How can we transcend ourselves? How can we go beyond and self-overcome instead of nation overcoming? We are self-overcoming.
My idea is that every specific body strives to become master over all space, and to extend its force, its will to power, and to thrust back all that resists its extension. But it continually encounters similar efforts on the part of other bodies, and ends by coming to an arrangement, union, with those of them that are sufficiently related to it. Thus they then conspire together for power, and the process goes on. An interesting fact about Friedrich Nietzsche: he was born the same year that Joseph Smith died, while the Latter-day Saints were preaching about rising from the dust and overcoming the natural man and being children of God and being deified. Friedrich Nietzsche at the same time was teaching the Übermensch, overcoming the beast inside, overcoming all things that put us down, and becoming gods in our own right. And so, in a very general sense, I find it extremely hypocritical that Jacob Hansen would be so against will to power, despite the fact that he himself believes, as per his religion, that he can become an all-powerful god over his own universe.
Will to power much, Jacob?